Hey, so today we're talking about something a lot of people casually joke about, but don't actually seem to fully understand. And what that thing is why Diet Coke can feel weirdly addictive. So let's start with the obvious questions. What's actually in Diet Coke that makes people crave it so much? I think, in my opinion, the big factor is caffeine. So Diet Coke contains caffeine and a lot of other Diet Colas as well, and caffeine's a mild stimulant. It works by blocking some things in your brain, some chemicals, such as chemicals that make you feel tired. That's why you probably feel a bit more awake on caffeine. So when you drink the Diet Coke, you feel more alert, a little more awake, maybe even slightly more focused. Now, here's the key part. Your brain starts to associate that improved feeling with the drink itself, and so over time it creates kind of a habit loop. You feel a little tired or sluggish, you grab a Diet Coke, you feel better. Your brain remembers. That's not full-blown addiction, exactly, but you're starting to depend on it. So it's like dependence kind of behavior. Now, the second factor that gets a lot of people, the artificial sweeteners. Diet Coke doesn't have sugar, but it uses sweeteners like aspartame, which are intensely sweet. I'm pretty sure it's like 200 times more sweet than regular sugar. So when you taste something that's sweet, your brain expects calories to follow, but the calories never come. So what happens? Your brain gets a reward signal. Like, your brain's kind of saying, this is sweet, this is good, but without the actual energy payoff. So this mismatch here can kind of make your brain want more because it feels like something's missing. It's kind of like starting a sentence and never finishing it, and then starting it over and over and over, But over time, that can kind of increase cravings, not just for Diet Coke, but in some people, for sweet things in general. Now here's where it gets interesting. The combination of this caffeine and the sweetness. You're not just getting a stimulant anymore, but you're also getting a very highly rewarding taste at the same time. So pairing those two things together are powerful. It's very similar to how coffee and sugar get very addicting for people, rather than just plain coffee. So every single sip you take is doing two things. It's stimulating your brain, for one, with the caffeine, but also rewarding it at the same time with the sweetness. So this is kind of a strong kind of loop that it creates. And the next factor, it sounds small, but it's not, and that's carbonation. Carbonated drinks can create a very specific sensory experience, like the fizz, the kind of bite to it, the slight acidity. Some research suggests that the carbonation itself can activate reward centers in the brain. That sharp, crisp feeling, people get used to it. They start liking it. Some people, and I've felt this with myself, even say that, plain water kind of feels boring afterwards. It doesn't have that to it. So now you've got three things. You've got caffeine for stimulation, sweetness for reward, and carbonation for this kind of sensory type of satisfaction. And that's all stacked together in this one drink. And that's not even everything. Habit and environment plays a role too. So a lot of Diet Coke consumption isn't just what's in the drink, but it's about when and how people drink it as well. For example, you always have one with lunch, or you might grab one during a work break, or you drink one while driving. You try to associate it with relaxing and focusing. So these repeated patterns kind of treat your brain to expect Diet Coke in certain situations. So even if your body doesn't need it, your brain kind of starts to anticipate it. That anticipation itself is kind of like a craving. And here's something people don't always notice, but the branding and consistency with it too. Diet Coke has an extremely consistent flavor. Every can tastes basically the same every time. The predictability matters. Some people argue that, it's different depending on if you get it from the can or as a fountain drink or a bottle. And I actually agree with that. But I still like it either way. Your brain kind of likes these reliable rewards, and the branding is a whole other thing. For example, let's just take the can. The silver can has a clean design, has the identity of being a light option, a guilt-free option, which is a whole other thing. It can make people very comfortable with drinking it frequently, and that lowers the psychological barrier. Now, let me address the word addiction, because it kind of gets used a little loosely. Diet Coke doesn't create addiction in the same way substances like nicotine or alcohol would. There's no severe withdrawal for most people if they don't drink Diet Coke, but it can create this kind of dependence-like behavior, like cravings or difficulty cutting back or feeling off without it, or headaches actually from caffeine withdrawal. So there is, some level of truth to it. So it kind of sits in a gray area, I feel like, habit forming, mildly dependence indulging, not typically dangerous in moderate amounts, but that said, it can still become excessive. Some people drink multiple cans a day, and at that point it's less about the drink itself and more about this kind of pattern you created. You're kind of reinforcing some sort of loop over and over again. So if you're kind of sitting here wondering, like, why do I feel like I need this Diet Coke, this drink all the time? It's not just one answer. It's not going to be one thing. It's the combination of this caffeine stimulation, the intense sweetness without all the calories, the carbonation and sensory feedback, the habits that you create, the constant reliable reward, and not to mention it's guilt-free, so people freely keep sipping, you know what I mean? Now, that is very effective at keeping people coming back. I mean, that's the whole idea. That's, of course, what Coca-Cola wants, right? Now, does that mean you have to quit completely? Nah, of course not. For most people, moderate consumption is fine, The issue shows up when it replaces water entirely, or if it disrupts your sleep terribly because you're drinking caffeine or too much caffeine, or feels like something you could never go without. So if you ever try to come back and it feels surprisingly difficult to cut back on, that's probably a good sign that the habit loop is very strong, but it doesn't mean there's something like wrong with you. It really just means that the system they've created works exactly as it's designed to work. If you want to reduce it, the most effective approach isn't going to be going out cold turkey though. It's not going to be like, oh hey, let me just stop then. I'm just going to stop. You kind of have to gradually break this association. So maybe swap one can a day for something else, like a glass of water or something, or change some of the timing, or don't pair it with the same routines every single day, every single time. Because at the end of the day, what makes Diet Coke addictive isn't just what's inside the can, but it's also the relationship your brain builds with it. So sometimes it's in your head. Once you understand that, it can become a lot easier to manage. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.